My wife and I made a decision that completely changed the direction of our lives. We packed everything we owned into a shipping container. We shipped our vehicles across the Atlantic. We left behind the life we had built in Canada. And on May 1st, we moved back to Albania. Not to a big city, not to a finished home, but to a small village in northern Albania near the Montenegro border, to rebuild my father's villa and begin a completely new chapter for our family. At the time, we didn't know if this would become the best decision of our lives or the biggest mistake we had ever made. Hello everyone, welcome to the first house. My name is James Galai, and welcome to my very first YouTube video. This channel is going to be about one of the biggest journeys of my life. It's about leaving Canada, moving back to Albania, reinventing my family villa, raising a family here, starting businesses, producing JimmyPro products here and shipping them around the world. Trying to create a life that feels meaningful, honest, and true to who we are. This is not just a renovation series. It's the story of starting over, and I want to document it honestly. The good days, the difficult days, the mistakes, progress, the stress, beauty, and everything in between. People ask me all the time, why would you leave Canada? And honestly, it's a fair question. Canada gave my family a lot. It gave us opportunity. It gave us stability. It gave me the ability to work in beautiful homes, save money, build skills, and dream bigger than I probably would have imagined when I was younger. Our children were born there. We created memories there. I had a rewarding kitchen cabinet refinishing business there with all the work I could handle. So leaving Canada wasn't about hating Canada. It wasn't about running away. It was about running towards something different. For years, my wife and I dreamed about having a real family home, not just the house, not just the mortgage, but a place where our children could run outside freely, a place with land, fruit trees, a garden, space to build, space to breathe, space for family to gather, a place where every improvement we made would actually belong to us and become part of our family's future. But around the greater Toronto area, that dream started to feel further and further away. Housing became more expensive, life became faster, traffic got worse, everything felt like it required more money, more rushing, more pressure, and less time. And at a certain point, I started asking myself a question that I think a lot of people quietly ask. Is this really the life we want for our family? Not just today, but 10 years from now, 20 years from now. What kind of childhood do we want our kids to remember? What kind of life do we want to build? And what are we willing to risk in order to build it? I wanted my children to grow up with more connection to nature. I wanted them to know where food comes from. I wanted them to spend more time outside. I wanted them to experience family, land, seasons, animals, gardens, mountains, and the kind of simple moments that are easy to lose in a busy modern life. Not because Albania is perfect. It's not. Far from it. And not because life here is easy. It definitely isn't. But I believe that here we had a chance to build something that would have been almost impossible for us to build around Toronto. A home, a lifestyle, a family foundation, and deep down, I think I always wanted to build something with my own hands. Not just buy something finished. Not just move into someone else's dream. I wanted to create one, to design it, to struggle through it, to make mistakes, to solve problems, to plant trees, to build rooms, to improve land, to eat and live healthier with Mediterranean food. But this story didn't actually begin when we packed our shipping container. It began many years earlier with my father. My father built this villa around 1996. Like many Albanians of his generation, nothing came easy. Everything he built came through hard work, sacrifice, and determination. This house was not just another building. It was his dream, a place for the family, a place we could always return to, a place that would hopefully stay in the family for generations. But ironically, not long after it was completed, life took us in a completely different direction. We left Albania. First, our family moved to the United States. Eventually, we settled in Canada. And for most of my life, this villa didn't really feel like mine. It was simply my father's house. I never imagined that one day it would become my home. Then, in 2017, my father passed away. And after that, the way I looked at this place completely changed. It wasn't just a house anymore. It became part of his legacy. And whether I realized it immediately or not, it became part of my responsibility. Not because anyone forced me, not because anyone asked me to, but because I couldn't shake the feeling that all of his work deserved another chapter. My mother, brother, and sister, everyone had their own lives, and I completely understood why a project like this didn't interest everyone. A villa like this is a huge responsibility. It takes money, time, energy, stress, patience, and a lot of sacrifice. There were many reasons to walk away from it, but every time I thought about letting it slowly fade away, something inside me wouldn't allow it. It wasn't guilt, it was respect. Respect for what my father had built. Respect for the sacrifices he made. Respect for the foundation he left behind. And slowly, I started to feel that maybe my role wasn't to preserve everything exactly the way it was. Maybe my role was to continue what he started, to take the foundation he built and turn it into a home for the next generation. Around 2020, something changed in me. I became obsessed with the idea of what this property could become. At night after work, I would sit down and start designing floor plans, room layouts, kitchen ideas, bathrooms, lighting, windows, staircases, ceilings. I would redesign the same space over and over again. Sometimes I'd change a wall by a few centimeters. Sometimes I'd spend hours thinking about where a dining table should sit, or how natural light should enter a room, or how the kitchen should function. To most people, those details probably sound small, but to me they mattered because I wasn't just designing a house. I was designing a future. I was imagining family dinners, birthdays, Christmas mornings, my children running through the yard, friends visiting, my wife and I growing older here, and maybe one day grandchildren running through the same property. Little by little, this stopped being only my father's dream. It became mine too. Not because I wanted to replace what he built, but because I wanted to build on top of it. His generation built the foundation. Now it was my turn to continue the story. Before we ever fully committed to moving, I started investing in the property. Around 2020, I put roughly 30,000 Canadian dollars into the land. We drilled a deep water well. We removed huge boulders with excavators. We brought in truckloads of soil. The goal was to transform the land into something useful, beautiful, and productive, making the lot arable land. At the time, I still wasn't living here. I was still in Canada, still working, still planning, still trying to figure out whether this dream was realistic. But looking back now, I think a part of me had already made the decision. I just hadn't said it out loud yet. What's interesting is that Albania wasn't even our first plan. Before making the move, my wife and I seriously considered moving to Michigan. We looked at homes, we found a property we liked. We imagined building our future there. We were considering the E2 investor visa path as Canadians. For a while, that seemed like the direction our life was going. But then the deal fell through. At the time, it felt like a major disappointment. But life is strange that way. Sometimes the door that closes is the one that redirects your entire future. Because once Michigan was no longer the plan, we had to ask ourselves a serious question. If not there, then where? And for me, the answer had been growing quietly for years. Albania. Not because it was the easiest choice, probably because it was the hardest. Once we made the decision, everything became real very quickly. Every room in our home slowly filled with boxes, furniture, tools, family photos, children's toys, clothes, memories. Piece by piece, the life we had built in Canada disappeared into a shipping container. It's a strange feeling packing up your entire life. Ordinary objects suddenly become emotional. A chair, a coffee mug, a toy, a photo. Things you barely notice every day suddenly remind you that one chapter is ending. And when those container doors finally closed, it felt symbolic. Not because we were closing the door on Canada forever. Canada will always be a part of who we are. We're Canadian. But that moment made it clear. A new chapter was beginning. We shipped our Ford Transit. We shipped our Audi. We said goodbye to the life we knew. And on May 1st, we left Canada to start over in Albania. There were moments of excitement, moments of fear, moments where we wondered if we were making the biggest mistake of our lives. But sometimes, if you want a different life, you have to be willing to take a different path. even when that path is uncertain. When we arrived in Albania, everything felt familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. The language, the mountains, the roads, the villages, the people. Parts of it felt like returning to something I had always known. Other parts felt completely new. Because this time, I wasn't coming back as a visitor. I was coming back to live here, to build here, to raise my children here, to take on a project that was bigger than anything I had ever attempted before. And when we finally arrived in Vukbole, the village where my family story began, I remember looking around and feeling the weight of our decision. This was no longer just an idea, no longer just a dream, no longer just sketches on paper. This was real. This was home. Not because everything was finished, not because everything was easy, but because this was where we had chosen to build our future. Over the coming episodes, I'm going to take you back to the beginning. You'll see this renovation exactly as it happened. The first walkthrough, the first decisions, first problems, the mistakes, the delays, the progress, the moments where I felt confident, and the moments where I questioned everything. I'll share the process of transforming this large Balkan-style villa into our family home. I'll show you what it's like raising a family in rural Albania. I'll take you along as I attempt to build businesses here and abroad. You'll see me turning the barn into my very own workshop. You'll see my inventions, my ideas, and the reality of trying to create something from scratch. We'll explore Albania together. The beauty, the opportunity, the frustration, the culture, the food, the villages, the people, and the honest reality of what it's like to move back after spending most of your life in North America. I don't want this channel to be fake. I don't want to only show you the beautiful parts because life isn't like that. There will be hard days, there will be setbacks, there will be mistakes, there will be unexpected problems, but there will also be moments that remind us why we came here in the first place. And that's the journey I want to share. This is only the beginning. Every journey has a moment where everything changes. For us, this was that moment. The decision to leave one life behind and begin another one here in Albania. But this is only the first chapter. In the next episode, we'll walk through my father's villa for the very first time. I'll show you what we inherited, what we need to rebuild, and why, despite everything, I knew this dream was worth pursuing. If you've ever dreamed of starting over, building something meaningful, honoring your family's legacy, moving to another country, or simply experiencing life in Albania, I'd love to have you along for the journey. My name is James Kylai. Thank you so much for watching. This is where we're starting, and this is what we're going for. If you'd like to follow the transformation from beginning to end, consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next episode.